Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from EnterGingerbreadman, who says, am I the arsehole here for being high conflict with my ex-husband and his wife over our kids? So to start, my 33 female ex, Harry 35 male, and I have been divorced for 6 years. We dated a bit in high school when I visited a relative in his hometown, which is in a major city, for summers, but I would break up with him when I went back to my city for school, which is about 2.5 hours away. Not the most mature, I know, but even my parents were like, you don't need a long distance relationship before you can vote. We kind of kept in touch on Facebook, lol at the time, but my sophomore year of college he ended up transferring to my school. We got back together and got married basically right after I graduated and moved to my hometown/city. Our kids, Matt 11 and Elise 8, came pretty quickly, and we had a few good years before. Stop me if you heard this one. I just felt as if I was already a single mum of 3 kids and was sick of working, doing all the childcare and all of the cleaning, cooking and planning. We tried therapy but ultimately decided that it wasn't going to work. For 3+ years it was fantastic. We had a wonderful 50-50 co-parenting relationship. He was such a better father when he had them all to himself, and I had the breaks that I'd been begging for. We agreed to never badmouth the other in front of the kids or make them responsible for our feelings or anything like that. We didn't have to spend a fortune on divorce because we were able to amicably work everything out, which only benefited our kiddos. In later 2022, he let me know he'd gotten back together with Amy, 35 female. He said her name a bunch like I should know who she was, and I finally asked, and apparently she was the girl he had dated when I was not in town, / before we reconnected. I was honestly happy for him. I'm not interested in dating, to be honest. My kids are too young and I work a lot and have a ton of friends and family. Amy lived in his hometown and I know he visited her a lot when he didn't have the kids. We were week on, week off, but he was always there for his parenting time. The kids met Amy and said they liked her a lot, so I was happy. My parents were also divorced but found other people, while still being amazing parents, so I was really hopeful. But in 2023, he let me know he had proposed, and he would be moving back to his hometown to be with Amy. I was pretty stunned because he was such a dedicated and present father, and asked how he expected that to work. He was insistent that he wanted to keep 50-50 custody, but admitted he could only do every other weekend parenting time. Before we moved, we didn't have any sort of alimony or child support or anything since we were 50-50 and split big expenses evenly and offered me child support since my expenses for the kids would be going up, having them so much more. Not that I was complaining about that. Again, we wanted to work this out ourselves mostly. Why spend money on lawyers when we have 2 kids who could use it? I make a bit more than him. Not that it really matters, but the first amount he offered, $400 for 2 kids a month, was laughable. I didn't laugh at him or anything, but told him that would not be acceptable. He said he was willing to continue paying half of big expenses, which, duh. Plus, he'd be driving a 5-hour round trip since he was the one moving every other weekend. I thought about it a lot and I figured that I'm fine financially, as much as anyone is these days, and didn't want to bankrupt him for child support. The most important thing to me was that he continued to be a present and amazing father, and said would I be okay with $600 a month plus the shared big expenses. I thought he'd be happy with this, but he kept grumbling that he thought $400 was more than fair. Ultimately, he agreed to $600. Again, I really wanted to make this work for my kids, so please don't tell me I was an idiot for some of these things. I really went out of my way to be helpful. Like I said, I'm single and I have a ton of family and friends, so I had more free time. If they had things going on, I never minded keeping the kids for their weekend. Always encouraged the kids to be excited to go there. Bought gifts from them for like Father's/Stepmother's Day, Christmas, birthdays. I don't know if I believe in love languages, but if my kids have them, it is absolutely gift giving, and it's not like their asses have jobs. And even worked it out for my relative in their city to pick our kids up from their wedding ceremony, since they had an adults only reception. These kind of gestures were never reciprocated. I tried to brush it off and thought maybe I was just doing too much, and tried to take a step back when the kids told me that some of the weekends they stayed with me, Harry and Amy had gone on vacations to places like Europe and Disney. I don't follow them on social media obviously, so I had no idea. I go on vacations too, but the idea of going on such an expensive vacation and not taking my kids sounds nuts. They're great travelers. We actually went to Japan last summer and had a blast. Maybe I'm an annoying parent, but I couldn't believe he'd leave the country or go to freaking Disney and not only not take the kids, but not even let me know. I wanted to remain amicable, but after I found out, the favors stopped. And for the past few months, anytime he asked me to keep them for a weekend because they had plans, I'd say, "Oh, sorry, same. Good luck." Yes, even if it was far in advance. I wasn't trying to be petty, but it wasn't as if they was asking to switch weekends ever. It was always just skipping them. I know his family is useless. No idea about hers, but he should be able to make time for his children 4 days a month. And a few months ago, I found out he'd been asking my relatives in his city for help. Sometimes they did if they could, but not always. I didn't want to keep bothering them, so I ended up saying yes to keeping the kids more. Plus, I obviously love them. But I started keeping track of every time he asked me to keep them. Over a 5-month period, it was 5 times. And around that time, Matt had told me some pretty upsetting things and confided that he was okay staying here more. I was clear that he could tell me anything and nothing was his fault at all. But he told me when he was at his dad's, both he and his sister needed to be in their rooms at 8 p.m. Keep in mind, this is weekends. Not in bed, but they weren't allowed to be in the living room or anything or have friends over. I asked if his dad and Amy were home during these times and he said yeah. But Amy's dog is aggressive and they kept it in their room during the day. So when he and Elise go to their rooms, they let the dog out so he's not cooped up all day. I love dogs, we have 2. And what the fuck? Elise got a bad flu a few visits ago and apparently she had asked Harry to sleep with her in her room and he refused and said he needed to sleep with Amy. Our kids do not co-sleep, but we always let them sleep with us if they were sick and asked. I didn't expect Harry and Amy to let us sleep with them or anything. Both kids are not ever allowed in their room because of the dog. But why couldn't he have stayed with her, even if it was just until she fell asleep? I did not say this to them, but told Matt and Elise that their dad had just gotten over the flu and probably just didn't want to get her sick again, which makes no sense. I know I shouldn't have lied, but they were upset. The worst in my opinion is when Matt randomly told his dad he wanted to see him more, and he yelled at him and told him that he was seeing him a lot already, and he should want his dad to be happy and not miserable and alone like his mum. I would like to again reiterate that I'm very happy being single and I've turned a lot of guys down. I prefer to spend my time with my friends and kids and can date when they're older. I don't like the stats on unrelated men being around kids and I don't feel the need to risk it anyways. So, between all this and the missed visits, I decided that I needed to stand up for myself and my kids more. If Harry could go on European vacations, he could afford more child support. And I was done keeping up the appearance of 50-50 custody when he only had the kids about 45 nights in 2024. So I told Harry I was going to file for updated child support and primary custody, and get everything in writing and signed off by a judge. He said he was okay raising child support. He'd apparently gotten a few raises since we settled it, and said he'd be fine with upping it to $750. First of all, you got all these raises and didn't even think to raise it yourself despite skipping almost half your agreed visitation, and that low of amount. I told him it was insulting, and we could just let the court figure it out. He reminded me that I made much more than he did, and I was like, yeah, that's why I'm able to take them on vacations when apparently you couldn't scrounge up enough money to take your children to Disney World. I know that was immature, but I was pissed. He tried fighting more, but I told him I didn't intend on fighting with him outside of court and filed. Obviously, because I'm writing this, the judge agreed to almost all of my requests. Child support was increased, our primary custody and decision making, and it can be adjusted more if you continue skipping weekends. To be honest, this has all helped me with the kids and their increasing expenses and needs tremendously. We only communicate through text or email, but it's only about the kids. But a mutual friend of ours told me that at a wedding recently, Amy and Harry spent a bunch of time complaining about me, calling me high conflict and a parasite, and much worse things when they drank more, but I won't repeat them. I got upset. My only goal is for my kids to have a great childhood and a present dad, and I feel like I fucked that up. My friends told me that Harry's the one who fucked it up, but I'm really doubting myself. So, am I the arsehole for pushing my ex to do more? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation at all. I mean, all you're doing is protecting your kids, looking after your kids' best interests, and that is the way forward. He's the one who's neglecting everything because it just feels like he's got a taste of that child-free life once again, and he's just pushing for it more and more without considering the kid's feelings or anything like that. The only thing I would say is stop protecting him in any way, shape or form. These are his choices that he's making. And one day he's very likely going to look back and says, oh, why don't my kids want to see me anymore? You know, it might not happen, of course, but we've seen that kind of thing time and time again. Someone says to OP, not the arsehole, you're standing up for your kids. At the end of the day, that's what you need to do. Sounds like Harry likes being a dad when it suits him, but now that he has Amy, she is the focus and the kids take a back seat. OP says, I get what you're saying. It's upsetting because I wanted him to be as happy as I thought it would. You know, trickle down to the kids, but it hasn't. The commenter says in quotes, Amy and Harry spend a bunch of time complaining about me, calling me high conflict and a parasite, and much worse things when they drank more. And then says, they can call you anything they like, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Who has full custody? Where do the kids live? Where do the kids want to be? Harry and Amy are showing their ass to the world, and everyone can see it for what it is. You better be able to as well, or you'll be easily manipulated again. Not the arsehole. Opie says, yeah, they did say to our friends I blindsided him for custody, and they asked if that was true, and I laughed showing them the receipts. I know they're wrong, but I'm worried I blew up our co-parenting relationship and it will affect my kids. A commenter says, not the arsehole, stop worrying about what Harry and Amy think. You've been looking out for your kids as any good parent should, and more importantly, you're present for them. Focus on you and your life with your children, and leave your ex to mess things up for himself, as he's no longer your responsibility. Opie says, it's not that I give a fuck about their feelings at all, but if they hate me, apparently there's no way that's good for the kids, and although I cannot see where they're coming from, if they resent me, it's going to affect Harry's relationship with the kids. Another commenter says, not the arsehole at all. My guess is Amy hates you and your kids because Amy feels she's always the runner-up with your husband. He dated her when you weren't around. He married her when you divorced. She feels like she's not his first choice, and she wants to see you suffer as she feels she did. That's my guess. I have family members like her. Opie says, I don't know that this is true. She told our friends that she knows I always felt a certain way about her, and says my jealousy is why they couldn't have been friends. I literally had no clue who she was. I knew he dated other people when we broke up, but that's fine. So did I. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. Good for you for looking out for your children. You've done all you can to make this positive. I'd worry if they have children together. It is only going to get worse. Opie says, I knew this. But another fucked up thing is that apparently at one point Elise asked Amy if she was going to have a baby. And Amy told her that she had her tubes tied, so no. But didn't elaborate, and Elise is only 8. Like Matt would have understood, but we have not had any of those kind of talks with Elise before this, and she was devastated, asking me why Amy had tubes. She's apparently always been child-free, which is totally fine. I had a lot of friends who didn't and still don't have kids. And I did talk to Elise about not asking people about things like that again. So OP came in with her update and said, quick edits, sorry I can't reply to everyone, and sorry for the dumb formatting. I wrote this in the Notes app initially because writing it in Reddit app is annoying. Also, I'm pretty emotional now, but I think you've already changed my mind about offering to drop child support. I'll be going for full 100% custody though. Unfortunately, things have degenerated since my last post. To get this out of the way, I'm in therapy, usually once every other month or so. It was more often closer to the divorce, and so are my kids. I know Harry was seeing someone when he lived here. No idea if he still does. He was supposed to have the kids next weekend as scheduled. Wouldn't you believe it, but the other day he called. They got a last-minute ticket to a concert out of town and asked if the kids could stay here. I let him know that I actually had plans the entire weekend that had been set months ago. So he asked if I could either bring them or they could stay with one of the family members in my city. I normally would have just done that and pulled out my calendar and marked this off as another missed visitation, but I was just sick of it. I told him he needed to figure it out and not to call my relatives in his city. They were not his personal free babysitters, and he was their father, so he needed to start acting like it. He got upset and said he was drowning. I almost laughed, but didn't, asking him what he meant. He said he was struggling financially due to the child support, and felt like I was trying to punish him for moving. He said I was allowed to be upset we weren't together anymore, but needed to put the kids first and work with him. I couldn't believe he was saying those things. He knows why our marriage ended. He knows that I have moved mountains to make our co-parenting relationship work. And I have pages of texts and emails of him thanking me for being so accommodating and sympathetic to his situation. Some were even just a few weeks ago. I hung up. I was at work and did not have the emotional bandwidth to be lied to about this shit. He tried calling me back a few times, but I had meetings and realized I shouldn't have spoken in anger, so I wanted to calm down. He even had his wife call me a few times, but I let it go to voicemail. She left a few cruel ones. Nothing shocking, just saying I'm bitter and jealous that Harry moved on and wanted to punish them. I want to emphasize again, I'd rather cut my legs off than be back together with him. I'm the one who filed for divorce and stuck to my guns. It's like these two live in some kind of delusion where I not only want my ex back, bath, but I never helped them once. When I got home, I pulled the calendar for the past 2 years, which had every missed visitation, including last-minute requests, all color-coded accordingly. I emailed this to both of them and said that Harry was responsible for coming up with appropriate childcare during his visitation, and that if he was finding that challenging, we could look into changing the visitation schedule to something more accommodating to their busy lifestyles. Then I left to take my kids to their sports practices. I did not hear from him. Normally Harry calls our kids every school night evening around 8 p.m. But he didn't that night. I felt guilty, as I said the only goal here is for my kids to grow up with a present father. It might have been dumb, but I did call him that evening so he could say goodnight to them, but he sent me to voicemail. I told the kids he had gotten caught up at work, which does happen often enough that they weren't weirded out. At about 3 a.m, he sent me maybe the longest text in recorded history. I have my phone on sleep mode, but keep his and my parents' numbers able to alert me for obvious reasons. And I'm a light sleeper, so I did wake up. But I was half asleep and saw how long the text was, and decided it was a problem for the morning. I wish I had gotten up because he ended up sending a few more. The text really just proved that they do not occupy the same reality as me. They were all self-centered and deranged, and even when he brought up the kids, it was all about him, his wife, and their lives and feelings, saying, "This is my job as a mother to facilitate the kids' relationship with him, because he could have easily forced me to move to the city he's in." What the fuck? But chose not to, so I could stay here with my support system. I don't thank Amy enough for opening her life to the kids by keeping a dog in their room when the kids are here and giving them their own bedrooms even though they're empty much of the time. That he and Amy are young newlyweds. They are neither of those things and deserve to have that honeymoon period with trips and opportunities without me putting up roadblocks. A lot of it was the insane belief that I am somehow jealous and have always been jealous of Amy and needed to get over it for the kids. Apparently my cruelty knows no bounds because I've never driven the kids to him in his new city. The court order is for him to do so since he's the one that moved. This is standard, and no offense, I'm already furious that my kids have to spend so much time in the car every few weeks, and I'm not putting miles on my car just so that he doesn't have to drive more. At one point, because I know the kids hate the long drives, I offer to split costs for flights between our cities, which are like 30 minutes and anywhere from $50 to $75 per ticket. So not cheap, but saves time, and he refused, saying the airport in the city is annoying to get to. There is no direct Amtrak between our cities. It'd be like 8 hours plus, I believe. Next one they said is they might just get full custody and make me be the one to jump through hoops to see my children so that I know how they feel. You know, simply just get full custody because apparently in their world they deserve every little whim of their own desire. And then accuse me of financial abuse for upping child support when I wasn't destitute. Apparently unless I'm living under the poverty line, my kids don't deserve financial help from their father. I have PTO to burn and just decided to take one day because I'm so overwhelmed and upset about all of this. Yes, I did screenshot all of these for my lawyer. I don't want to be the cause of my kid's father abandoning them, but I've been at and beyond my limit for so long, I don't know what to do. They both treat me so horribly and make these assumptions that are just simply not true. I want my kids to have their dad in their lives. I've run myself ragged making it work, taking up the slack when they drop weekends, doing all the mental heavy lifting for looking ahead and switching weekends if, for instance, Father's Day falls on mine or her birthday, when I know she doesn't want them around, falls on their weekend and planning ahead of time and contacting them. I'm so done. I want to offer this. Fine, you win. No more child support. Keep all your money. You can see the kids the weekends after Christmas and Thanksgiving. Those are when they celebrate the holidays anyway, and on Father's Day. But otherwise, they're with me. You two can live your child-free life, and me and my kids will be just fine without you. I can't keep putting up with this abuse. I'm at my breaking point. A commenter said to OP, don't open the door to him not providing child support. You should use all the evidence you have to get more custody and also increase his child support. fuck your ex for wanting to abandon his kids and thinking he can actually get full custody when he's constantly bailing on his current scheduled times. He's delusional and thinks threatening you will let him do as he pleases. The reality is his lies won't get him anywhere, and he doesn't have the power to follow through on any of them. OP says, I've been devastated all morning and day. I knew logically that the only way he could possibly get full custody is if I were to die. And I can't stop crying thinking about my kids being forced to their rooms every night at 8. Never going on trips to fun things and living with a stepmom who can't stand kids. I probably shouldn't have posted because I'm so upset and emotional, but I'm so lost. I don't like talking to people in real life about this other than my therapist because I don't want to poison them against my ex or put my problems on them. But this is the only thing since my divorce I feel so alone about. I feel like I failed my kids by giving them Harry as a father. Another commenter says to OP, you need to increase therapy if you have the means to do so. Because the fact that you typed all of that and said you don't want to be the cause of your shit ex abandoning his kids, he's the one responsible. If he chooses to be a deadbeat, that's on him. He chose to move. He chose to be a shit dad. Time for you to get ridden in your custody arrangement that he makes arrangements for childcare on his weekends. Do not give up child support. That is your children's money, not yours. Do not give that up. All of the money he pays is for your children. You are knocked down and not thinking rationally. Do not respond either. OP says, have scheduled a session for later today. I agree the support is for the kids. Yes, I do not need it, but they deserve that money for college savings, and maybe I'm sharing too much, but the amount he pays me now is exactly the amount I put every month for each of them into their college funds, or for trade school / getting an apartment or house during an apprenticeship, whatever they choose to do. But I feel like it's just this leash keeping me and them tethered to him and the whims of him and his wife, and I'm so beaten down. Another commenter says he's already abandoned his children. Now it's time to wisen up and have him pay for abandoning his children. Be smarter. Every time he missed a visitation, let the courts know. That money can be used to pay for a college fund. It is his responsibility to foster his relationship with his children, not yours. Who cares if he doesn't have a relationship with his children? That's on him, not you. If he cared about his children, he wouldn't be behaving the way he is. You can't control his actions, but you can control yours. Take the extra child support money for a college fund. OP says the money does go to their college, trade school, or first house fund. I just feel like such a loser and a failure of a mother for giving them him as a dad. Commenter says, for the love of everything, please stop trying to force a relationship between your kids and a man who so very clearly doesn't give a fuck about them anymore. You have no idea how cruel it is to the kids. I grew up like this. I felt unloved, unwanted, and never understood from a father who was more interested in traveling the world, earning money that he then put in to save because otherwise it was on an account that could be checked during child support hearings, and telling me about his girlfriends. Yes, they will ask you where daddy is, and you'll be honest and tell them you do not know why he's not coming or picking them up. Stop lying to them and acting as if they have a loving father. OP says, please no, I'm never forcing anything. My kids do love their dad. If they told me to my face that they absolutely did not want to go there, I wouldn't make them. The thing is, they don't know how much I dislike their dad. I don't want them to feel bad about talking about him to me, but it's kind of turned into they think I like their dad and don't want to talk bad about him to me. But I'm working with their therapist to get that out of their heads. They know I'm not only on their team, I'm their biggest supporter. That's an incredibly sad story, and one that I hope that OP works on in therapy, because I think that's the only thing going to help, because OP's currently blaming herself for giving them Harry as a father, when for everyone who's reading this can see that she's done everything possible to facilitate a relationship, even lying to protect the kids from knowing how their father really feels about them, which, I don't think is a good thing. However, she's not causing him to abandon his kids. He's choosing to prioritize his new life with Amy over being a father, and it's as simple as that. And there was just so much disgusting behavior from them. The 3 a.m. texts that show exactly who they are. People who care more about their, air quotes, honeymoon period than traumatizing children. And like we just said, I think OP needs to stop protecting them from the consequences of their choices and focus on protecting their kids instead. I know it's really brutal, especially at the ages they are, but the kids need to see who their father is. It's going to come out eventually, and this can't be good for OP's own mental health as well, trying to facilitate this relationship when he just doesn't give a shit by the looks of it. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so, so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Yeah, man, I remember being so naive when life was good, weather and palm trees. Back in the day, you were everything I need. But then along came a time when you crushed my dreams. Oh yeah, you played me like a fool when you made me believe that the line between love wasn't thick enough to read. Oh yeah, you see we in despair, crime everywhere. You're selling false hope cause you just don't care. Nah, you just don't care. Nah, you just